We have a new analogy that we like so much. It has so many pieces to it that we can utilize in so many ways to demonstrate to you what we're talking about. So we'll get away from vibration for a moment and talk about something that is practical, that you can envision. Esther has a pond in Texas that has a pipe in the bottom of the pond that takes the water to the filter, and then it puts it back. Simple concept. But the pond was getting cloudy. Couldn't see the fish. And it was discovered, finally, after trying different things, that the pipe that was putting the water back in was clogged. So they just laid some new pipes. They laid some new pipes that allowed the water to come back into the pond, and it cleared up right away after quite a while of being cloudy. And as Esther watched that experience, she was so excited because she so loves the beauty of this little stream and the pond that is at the base of it. And oh, the beautiful fish have been there for quite a while. She knows some of them very well. When she can see them, she recognizes them. And so she wanted to see them, and seeing them again made her feel really good. So then we began suggesting to you that you've got some clogged pipes and don't even know it. You've got some pipes that you mean to have open that are not open. And then we said that the pipes had clogged from neglect. Well, that got Esther thinking, because years ago we were talking about just open your valve between you and what you want. And today we are saying let that be the path of least resistance. So now we're saying to you that the thought ways that you carve out with the steady thoughts that you think literally carve out paths of least resistance. And then through those paths of least resistance, things come. They rendezvous with you. So let's say you've been irritated about something since you were a child. Your parents didn't have enough money. They talked about not having enough money. They told you they didn't have enough money. They told you that you didn't have enough money. They told you that money doesn't grow on trees. They told you that they were not going to get that for you. They helped you, not in all cases, but in many cases, carve out a pathway to not enough money, a path of least resistance. What we are suggesting is that you just lay some new pipes by thinking new thoughts. But often you say, well, that conceptually sounds like a really good idea, and I'll get right on that. But the problem is, the other pathway has momentum going, and every time you get down to that juncture where you could go that way in the new pipe or that way in the old pipe sucks you in because it's got more momentum going, because you've been thinking that thought longer. When you think a thought for as little as 17 seconds, another thought like it will join it. More momentum. As you stay focused there, another thought joins it. More momentum. When it crosses the 68-second mark, seriously, when it precisely crosses the 68-second mark, there's enough momentum now that things begin to occur to you in stronger fashion. We would call that, just for sake of clarification here, a manifestation point, a strong enough manifestation point. So now at the beginning of this gathering, we would like to suggest that you let those old pipes that are leading to unwanted things, like not enough money, or not enough clarity, or not enough vitality, or not enough of whatever it is that you want more of, we suggest that you let them clog up from neglect. And the way you let them clog up from neglect is by not thinking those thoughts. So, how do you not think a thought that already has some momentum going? By getting a head start on it. By thinking another thought. I'm not going to think about that thing that I've been thinking about that's not good for me to think about. So I'm not going to think about that thing that I'm thinking about, because I'm not going to think about that thing that I'm thinking about because, well, you're thinking about it too, aren't you? I'm not going to think about that thing that I'm not going to think about because thinking about that thing is not good for me. So I'm not going to think about that thing that I'm not going to think about anymore. I'm not going to think I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it, but I don't want to think about that thing that I'm thinking about. I don't mean to think about that thing that I'm thinking about. I can't stop thinking about that thing that I'm thinking about. It's like that thing that I'm thinking about is thinking me. So we want you to realize that there's going to be some of that. But we have a new way of explaining it to you. And those who have been hearing and have been focusing in this new way are getting results, extraordinary results, easily. So here it is. As you stand in your now, do you accept that you are vibrational? Sort of, kind of. And is it logical to you that you have been offering habits of thought so that you do have a point of attraction? When you think of the people you know, or even yourself, in many cases, couldn't you describe most of them, who you know well? Couldn't you describe most of them with a singular emotional word? Sort of like the 7 dwarfs. Bashful and happy. In other words, don't you know ornery? Don't you know pensive? Don't you know defensive? Don't you know eager? Don't you know happy? And while everyone you know moves about a bit and could be described in many of these ways, you do sort of have these habits of thought that hold you in those sort of moods, don't you? So we would like you to think of those moods or emotions as vibrational points of attraction, just like the emotional scale that we talked about a few years ago, where there is despair and fear and grief, really low feeling vibrations. And then there is revenge, which is an improvement, and anger, which is an improvement still, and overwhelmment and frustration, improvement still. And then you get into hope, and then you get into joy and eager and appreciation and all those good feeling vibrations. So we want you to think of this grid, this point of attraction, this spinning grid, point of attraction, sweeping around, gathering up all cooperative components and bringing you to them and them to you, because creation is really rendezvousing. It's what it is. Your point of attraction causes you to rendezvous with things that are like you, that are of a vibrational frequency that you are at. So if you think of these spinning grid discs, let's just call it the high-flying disc. That's what you want to be on, that high-flying disc. You want to be on the high-flying disc, but sometimes things have happened that make it impossible in this moment, or improbable in this moment, for you to be on the high-flying disc. So what we are suggesting is that you do it when it's easier. Don't wait until something is manifested and has your attention, because when you're looking right at something that you do not want, there's plenty of momentum going. And there's not enough that you can do focus-wise usually in that moment that's going to change that momentum. And that's why we say, hang on, it'll be over in a little bit. After a good night's sleep, you can take another run at it. So now we would like to say to you that while you slumber, during that sleep time, you know what that is? Do you know what the real benefit of sleep is? It gives you a respite from your momentum. Because it's sort of like in that high-flying vibration. Imagine a cork bobbing up on the surface. You can hold it under the water, but when you let go of it, it's going to bob right back up to the surface. So we want you to realize that it is natural for you to feel good. It is natural for you to be in alignment. It is natural for you to be blended with all that you've become. It is natural for you to have full resonance with who you are. And it is unnatural for you to be focused upon something chronically or even all day that holds you in a feeling of a knot in your stomach, because you're defying your energy. You're disallowing the full energy that is you. So as we talk about these discs, and we encourage you to get on that high-flying disc, if when you awakened first thing in the morning, you acknowledge, ooh, I have a sort of clean slate because during the night my momentum stopped. So now I can choose a good feeling thought. If you choose something that is general, something that's not too detailed, something that feels really good, and you're able to maintain it for 17 seconds and then another, and you actually manage to lie in bed until you've crossed the 68-second mark, now you have a chance to have different momentum going today. Your point of attraction, your spinning grid, so to speak. What comes to you, it is our promise to you, will be a vibrational match to how you feel. Now, you might not make it till breakfast before something causes you to fall off that disc. You might not make it till breakfast, but you can do it again tomorrow, and 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 you can do it again tomorrow. Until after a while, not that long, certainly within 30 days, you will have established a vibrational precedence, a vibrational habit. You know, a belief is just a habit of thought. So if you think a thought and you don't contradict it and you allow the momentum to go, then the momentum will be such that this thought will gather enough momentum that then you will become a believer of it. Years ago, when we first began talking about thoughts, we said a belief is just a thought that you keep thinking. And Esther and Jerry, we remember many conversations with them. They were sort of arguing with us because it felt to them as if a belief is something that is reality. I believe it because it's real, Abraham. I believe it because it's real. And we say, no, it's real because you believe it. It becomes reality because you believe it. Well, they argued, but I haven't really thought that much about that. And we say, you just got to know that you're born into belief systems, and many of them serve you well, and many of them don't serve you well. And to be a deliberate creator, you get to sort out the ones that serve you, and you get to sort out the ones that don't serve you. And it is our promise to you, we can make this complicated and we don't want to, or we can make it simple and we really want to. If you will wake up in the morning and reach for the best feeling thought that you can find and practice it just a little while, you will begin to notice that your point of attraction has changed to the point that you will begin to feel invincible, because you will barely begin to speak things that are pleasurable to you or desirable to you or wanted by you, and the universe will begin an orchestration of them coming to you. When you get on your high-flying disc and then you get on your disc and then you follow the inspiration, the dynamics, the synergy, the co-creative power, you begin to feel invincible, because now you've accessed this energy that creates worlds. You have a leverage that few deliberately harness, but you can. So Esther sat there. She has her notebook and she writes things that occur to her, and she wrote with clarity, universe, show me others who feel like I feel. So now it's time for her to leave, and so she gathers herself up and gets back out onto the roadway. And this roadway goes through a couple of intersections, and then it goes right onto Interstate 5, back to Del Mar, where she lives. And as she crossed through the intersection, it was hard for her to get through without clogging it, because the traffic was backed up. And as soon as she got through the last intersection, she realized, there must be a problem on the freeway. And there's no escape, because everything says no U-turn, and there are no streets to turn off of. In other words, she was now committed to get on the freeway, and the freeway was clearly clogged. She was on the inside lane, and so she immediately just made an illegal U-turn. And so did the car behind her. It was like synchronized illegal driving. And now she's facing the intersection that she had just come through, and happy that she is not on that path of most resistance. She found illegal, we'll give it that, path of least resistance. The man who had been behind her, who is now in front of her because they've turned around, got out of his car, beautiful white hair, smiles that looked bigger than his head, and came to the window of her car and said, I've been driving around here for a long time, and never, ever, ever have I seen anyone follow their gut instinct with such success so quickly. It had not been 2 minutes since Esther had asked the universe to show her someone who felt like she felt. His wife was in the car, clearly not feeling that way. She didn't want him to make an illegal U-turn. Esther felt certain that he was coming. If he'd have been a generation younger, he'd have high-fived her. It was that feeling of exhilaration, that feeling of being in control of your own life, that feeling of doing what's best for you. And of course, Esther wanted to tell him so many things because she was enjoying his enthusiasm so much. She wanted to say, I do that kind of thing all the time. So you get what we're talking about. We're talking about getting tuned in, tapped in, turned on, getting into that place where you're in such vibrational alignment with clarity and knowing